Hello, actors audience.
I am here with Amir Arison, who plays Aram on The Blacklist on NBC. Before we talk about that, first of all, congratulations on your renewal.
Oh, thank you very much.
Hopefully, Aram will be coming back, and
I hope
The
so
Blacklist,
too.
you never know.
You do never know.
Maybe this interview will make sure you're cemented in.
You know, I actually never. People are always like, "Congrats, congrats," and I'm so Murphy's Law. I'm like, I don't know if with series regular stuff. If the show gets picked up, you also then have to get your option picked up over the summer. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that before I had gotten this job. So they sign you for 6 years. That's the standard contract. And this is so I'm on 6 years, but this is the 7th year because I was recurring in season 1. So this is my 6th year. So they have me if they want to renew me, but I still have to have my option picked up over the summer, which is always, sometimes they don't pick up your option. So I feel like the odds are good, but everyone's like, congrats. I was like, well, I technically don't have my job yet. I'm 95, 99%.
Congrats on being a step closer, at least, having a job next season.
Thank you.
And if something happens, I mean, Ryan Eggle is doing very well now, so.
You can call him up?
Yeah, I'll call him.
Can I be your rival doctor or something?
That's exactly right, yeah, you go right on New Amsterdam. So before we talk about The Blacklist, let's talk about your journey as an actor, and when did you first decide you wanted to become an actor, and what steps did you take in pursuing that dream?
Good question. No. I was 8. I was in a play at school, and I had just like a couple of lines. It was just like pirate play. I had like 2 lines, and I remember my sister giving me my first lesson. She goes, you have to, she goes, remember, you don't just have to know your line, you have to know the line that comes before yours so you know when to talk. And I was like, yeah, okay, I got it. And I did it, and it was very natural, and it was not stressful at all as an 8-year-old. And then I did it, and I don't know how my mom got this from 2 lines. After the play, my mom comes up to me and goes, "You have talent." And I was like, and I wasn't great at sports, so from that comment, I attributed everything to my mom, everything to my family.
Yeah.
But my mom is a real spark. And I joined the drama club and continued to sort of do well in drama club and moved forward. And then I got a little drama accolade in the 6th grade, like a little drama club plaque, an award. And then I got another one for high school when I was a senior, and it was just the most. So I was okay at sports. I liked them, but I really sort of felt like I had a natural aptitude. It's so funny. My mom told me this thing about, there's a thing in our country, not always work. People always want to fix the deficiencies in kids. Deficiencies are the wrong word, but maybe where they excel in some areas and are sort of behind in development in other areas. People always want to work on the areas they're behind. My mom always believes that you should lean into the things that they're good at. Like really encourage the things that they have an aptitude for, and I think that's something she just encouraged in me to build a self-confidence.
That's great, because you have a built-in support system where sometimes when people tell their parents or their family they want to be an actor, it's like, oh, you better choose a different career. Not a lot of people make it as an actor. So
I consider that the most important thing. I couldn't agree more.
That you had that.
My dad wasn't he was into me in high school doing it and stuff, but it was not into me considering it as a profession. I had to kind of convince him. But yes, in general, I have the love and support of a family, which I always consider probably the #1 thing I'm most lucky to have.
And I'm sure he's come around now that you've had a pretty steady gig for
when I got my first set of residuals from a commercial I did. He was not into it. He was like, "You're a smart kid. There's so many things. It's such a tough profession. Why would you want to do that?" And then I got some residuals from a commercial, and it was a few $1,000s. He goes, "What's this?" It's a residual, it aired again on TV, and he goes, okay, if you want to try some more of these, it's not a bad idea. Yeah. And now he's so into it. He's a doctor, he tells all the nurses, they all talk to him about The Blacklist, what's going to happen. He's like, this episode was good, they're saying this, and what about, asking me plots, and who's Liz's father? I said, I don't know.
Right.
So
that wouldn't bode well for your longevity on the show if you told them anyway. You might actually be visiting his place of work if you do that.
It's funny. It's true. It's true. Actually, I won't say who, but someone from the writer's room, somebody asked them if this is true, and the writer had said, "You're not wrong," and then that writer lost their job. I don't want to begrudge, and this writer's amazing. I don't know where that come from. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but
yeah.
It's such a proprietary secret that is the engine of the show.
Yeah. I feel there's a lot of shows that are like that now, though, too. you know, they don't want things getting out. I know NBC has Manifest, which is also a show.
Oh yeah.
They don't want things.
All those
getting
mysteries.
out.
So, well, your scripts are watermarked.
Yeah.
So if you leave your script, I remember once Bryan Cranston had his Breaking Bad script stolen from his car, and it was like a huge event. Like his bag was stolen and the script was in it. It was like, so I'm always like petrified. Like I recycle paper, so after an episode, I drop off, I bring it to work so they can recycle it and shred it and everything. And sometimes a PA will be like, oh, I got it. And I'm like, you have to do it now.
Right.
If somebody walks by the set from Crafty or anyone that's like day playing on the show or something, and it gets out, my life is, I could be sued by the studio. So I'm more paranoid than others. But anyway.
So he was happy with your residuals. Has he seen one of your residuals maybe for a quarter or 2 cents, or do you get any residuals like that? I know a lot of actors post that on their Instagrams. I got a check today for.
Do you know there's a bar in LA called Meaves Residuals, and if you bring in a residual that's under $1, they'll give you a drink for it.
That's awesome.
That's
pretty funny.
So I collected probably like 20 that were under $1, from 1 cent to 87 cents or whatever, and I went and I bought my friend some drinks, but you can only use 2 at a time or something. There's some rules so people don't go in because so many actors.
I was gonna say I got a sense that was gonna go sideways and you used all of them for yourself and you don't remember much of the night. But I'm glad glad it didn't go in that direction. So, what was your first professional credit?
That commercial I was speaking about with my dad, a Sonic Burger commercial. I was 16. It was really exciting. I remember auditioning and improvising, and it was like a drive-in with a sort of like a date. I was like teenagers, and it was like kind of like the drive-in, kind of like the 50s. If you've been into Sonic Burgers, and you order, and they bring you their food and the burger. And I remember being kind of blown away. It was a really big production. I actually think I might have done one non-union slice commercial, but that was just bizarre. Sonic Burger is really the main professional credit. But there were so many things that so first of all, I had to drive a car that was like a 1950 Chevy or something like that. So I was just a new driver. And I remember if you hit the brake, it kind of was like a boom, boom, and you had to get it just right. That was the first time I had to hit a mark, and I had to hit a mark driving at 16. So that was like, they were like too far, and I'd have to go back and redo it and hit the mark, and it was like, and I would come in slow. They're like, can you come in a little faster? And that was like the most stressful thing. And then you take a bite of the burger and you're laughing and so forth, and then they run over with a spit bucket. I was like, what is this?
Swallow those burgers the whole time.
Apparently, yeah, you'd be eating. I was like, oh, I like the burger, I'm fine. But they would come over, they're like, with a bucket to spit I was like, this is so strange. I learned a lot. But here was the big thing I learned, and this is what my dad learned. They took that commercial and they took a piece of it with me like smiling and laughing, throwing my head back with the girl, just that piece, and they added it to the jingle, which they tagged onto like 10 commercials.
Okay.
So then I was getting residuals, not just for the commercial I did, but for like a campaign.
That you weren't even a part of, technically.
So I did it when I was 16 and all the way through college.
Wow.
I would get residuals, and I would get a big residual. I was like, drinks are on me, like we're going out tonight. And that was a big eye opener for like, okay, there's a way to do this industry or business, even when you're starting out. If you get a couple of things like that, then can kind of keep you going. Anyways.
Well, you like to buy drinks for your friends. In my next life, I want to come back as one of your friends. Now, you also did stage work as well as, did you have the intention of doing all 3 genres when you were pursuing acting? Did you jump into stage first because it felt like a natural progression, since that's what you had been used to in school?
Yeah. I did. I was a sort of a stage guy. It's really mostly what I knew besides that commercial and a couple other piecemeal things in high school. I really, all my experience, I'd been doing stage work since I was 8. So, and I did stuff. I was in an improv group outside of high school. I did some community theater. I was, I did every play, more than one a year. I did like the musical, and then there was 2 plays. I did all of those from 8th grade through my senior year, from 3rd grade through my senior year. So I had a lot of stage experience. And also our main theater at Pinecrest School of Fort Lauderdale, my alma mater, I'm super grateful. They had a great arts program. I'm a huge proponent of arts access and education. Like, whether you go into it or not, it's just like enormous for development for kids who want to do that. Music, dance, art. I always preach that I think it's as important as sports, math, science. There absolutely should be an access to learning about. Anyway, So I was saying, so we had an assembly hall. It was almost like we had an off-Broadway theater and a Broadway theater. I remember the ICI probably sat like 100 or 150, and then the assembly hall sat 1,000. So I feel like I had experience, like when I went, it was the most natural thing. Like, it was a huge, huge theater. So when I went to Columbia University, long story short, I wanted to go to a school in New York. My parents didn't want me to go to like an NYU or a Juilliard or an acting program. They're like, you can act if you want, but you got to get like a full education, a well-rounded education. And I was on board for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Columbia had a great core curriculum. But anyway, I came here because I knew I wanted to be close to the theater. I wanted to see Broadway shows and off-Broadway shows. And I also did a trip to LA over the summer between my sophomore and junior year to see sort of the LA experience. And I did an internship at a casting office just to kind of see, and that kind of helped me decide that, I think I want to start in New York and stay in New York. But I always knew I wanted to do a TV show like Friends or 6 Feet Under. Those were kind of the two
opposite ends of the spectrum.
And that's where I felt like, sort of in the drama world and the comedy world, that I was where I would, it's just what I liked.
Did you enjoy improv? Is that what led you to liking comedy?
Sort of. The first play I did, the first full, so I got that little play that my mom did, but then the first real main lead role I did in a play was in the 6th grade called My Robot Buddy. And I remember instinctively going, if I go up with my inflection on this line, it'll get a laugh. And if I say it like this, it'll be fine. But if I can get a laugh, and I did it, some instinct told me to do that, and it got a rolling huge laugh in that 1,000-seat theater. And I was like, oh, this is
something there, yeah.
This is what and I was hooked. And basically, I would consider that moment, I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It was completely really cool. Hooked. So I feel like I had I feel like I have a natural instinct for comedy, and I always kind of gravitate towards stuff that, I mean, even in dramas, like there's tragedy and humanity inside of comedy. Maybe not slapstick and goofball stuff.
I agree with you. I know exactly what you're saying. I agree with you.
Steve Carell is one of my favorite actors for that. He can absolutely say a line and break your heart. It's a dramatic moment and absolutely make you laugh. Like, and I love the slapstick stuff too, but as I've gotten older, I've really gravitated more towards sort of the nuanced, subtle, dramedy kind of land. I really feel like that's where I want to live. I want to do it all, but and then I joined a professional improv group too, where I learned a lot, where I learned how you have to say yes. You don't have to make things funny, you just have to kind of live. And and it's funny, I really thought I would end up in comedy and do more, but I'm not a comedy writer, and I don't do stand-up. And sort of in the industry, I noticed that that's a journey for a lot of comedians to be in and they kind of move in a comedy pack and so forth, the SNL packs, the Second City packs. And I wasn't in those, and I did come from stage, and I'd done like Chekhov and all this stuff. So I had to make a concerted effort to kind of show people that I do comedy, I want to be in comedy. And that's a harder thing to kind of piecemeal bring up in my career, especially after 9/11 happened, and there was just a ton of Middle Eastern storylines that were dramatic. And that's when I really started. I was 23, and that's really how I started getting seen, and I do accents. So I just started living in that world. So I feel like a lot of casting directors kind of saw me as a dramatic actor and typecast me a little bit. I felt like it took a while, and they could see what I could maybe do otherwise. And then I started being able to break out of the box, if you will. I mean, that's a whole separate interview about that. There's 1,000 interviews you can look online, and SAG streams I've done panels on that. And anyway.
We'll link some. So now they say you don't make it, quote unquote, in New York until you do a Law and Order, and you did Law and Order Criminal Intent and SVU, and you did 2 stints on each, right?
Yes, very good. I did. Yes.
You played a doctor on 2 of them.
First, I did Law and Order.
Okay.
Regular Law and Order.
Regular Law and Order?
The Mothership.
So then you've done 3 then?
Yes, I did. And then I have done, exactly, I did, 2 Criminal Intents, you're right, and 2 SVUs, and the last SVU role was recurred for a few years. And I know, at the time, now there's this tax break, which I think we might be losing, but we have now, and there's a huge amount of content on television. So now there's like anywhere between 20 and 50 television shows shot in New York, and tons of pilots. Amazing. Blacklist has a ton of theater actors and a ton of stage animals that are like, It's great. But at the time, this was a number of years ago when, you know, those Law and Orders were on. SVU's still on, but I think season 20 or 22 or something.
Yeah, they're really up there. I think you're right. I think it's 20.
It's insane.
It's crazy.
So at the time, there wasn't that much. There was that. I remember there was like Hope and Faith, there was Sopranos, and it was just about anywhere between 4 and 7 television shows at a time. One would finish. And I had done most of them, and also the pool, you know, they were hired local hires. I think Law and Order prided itself on that. There was some rule at Law and Order, if you did a role and it's been 3 years, they can bring you on as a different character.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think sometimes they broke that rule, and that happened.
And to go recurring was, after being on it, is a testament to you as well.
And I was a doctor both times on that. I was Dr.
Which
Gupta, and then I was Dr. Manning. And they were
made your dad proud, even more proud.
Funny you should say that. Side story: a nurse that works with my dad in the hospital was watching Law and Order in the background and heard my voice and was like, "That's Dr. Arison's voice." I didn't know my voice is similar with my dad. People think, and looks up and sees a guy and being like, "That guy looks like Dr. Arison. That must be his son." Came to work the next day. And is this your son? And my dad doesn't understand. It was early on, and my dad was like, "How do you have my son's picture on your phone?" And he loved that. He loved that. I don't know if I answered your question about the Law and Orders, but
yeah, you did. You did actually. So about 3 years.
I will say this about SVU, since I recurred on that show, and I had so much medical jargon to learn and sort of make in pace, and I was standing opposite 2 huge stars, Christopher Maloney and Mariska Hargitay, and eye to eye with them, and you know they move fast and everything. I actually consider that my graduate school in television, technical television work. And I'm super grateful for those years on Law and Order and those episodes as the emergency room physician, Dr. Manning. I consider that a huge jump in me sort of mentally understanding what it takes on TV versus stage, which I've done most of my career and so forth.
You have done a lot of episodic guest starring roles. Which stand out for you besides the Law and Order that you just mentioned? Do you have any like funny stories for a reason it stands out, or?
There's a few. Can I say?
You can say as many or as few as you want.
Can I say like 3 or 4?
You can say as many as you want.
All right, I will just say the first one I ever did, that my first guest star, so my chunky role, was on a show called The Jury.
Okay.
And it was a Tom Fontana, Brian Levinson show that ran 1 season, or maybe a half a season. And it would be a series of guest stars would be the main characters. Like it would always go into the jury room and how things get deliberated. And I played the foreman, Tariq Ahmed, a Pakistani immigrant, and Susan Kalechi Watson from This Is Us was on the jury too. And it was her first sort of, she was recently out of NYU, and we bonded, and we're still, you know, friendly to this day. Who else was on? It was just like all, Betsy Aiden was on that. She's kind of an amazing theater and television actress, and I just learned a lot. One thing I learned about was continuity. I remember we were then at the lunchroom, and I was saying a lot, and I ate a chip. And I remember Clark Johnson was the director of that. Amazing guy. He's an actor and director. He's an amazing guy. He came over to me and goes, "Hey, to eat that chip, you got to eat that chip every time. You want to do that on that line?" And I was like, "Okay." And I just learning things as you go. The littlest
like a big
things.
Salt lick in your mouth by the end of the shoot, right?
It was good.
Anybody got any water over here?
I must say, there were 3 that stand out as really exciting for different reasons. Homeland, American Horror Story, and Girls. And those also are probably the 3 that did the most in moving me forward, that opened, you always think some job you get is gonna open a bunch of doors. It never opens as many as you think or hope, but even if it creaks open one, it's a step forward.
You don't know that creek where that's gonna lead to a different door, so.
American Horror Story, I got to act opposite Jessica Lange, and that was something really, really like an icon and a legend.
Big deal. Yeah, absolutely.
And that day, and having a really long, big scene, couple scenes, but one-on-one scene that was like 3 pages, just me and her, was freaking scary, thrilling, awesome. I kind of was freaked out the day after I'd done it. I was like, "What happened? What just happened? What did I do? What?" And I replayed the whole thing in my head. I was like, and then I was like, it's never gonna get better than that. And then I got Blacklist soon after, and I was like, oh, I'm acting with James and all these amazing guest stars. And anyway, so
that's cool.
I would say that stands out.
Did you get killed on American Horror Story?
I did.
How did you go?
If you haven't seen it, I
feel like I've seen it. I just don't remember exactly how you went.
My character was receiving fellatio from Moira, the maid, in the house, who was played by Alexandra Breckenridge.
Right.
But it was really Frances Conroy. Also from This Is Us. But it was really Frances Conroy who looked like Alexandra Breckenridge to sort of lustful men.
Yeah.
It was that thing. So I was receiving.
Yes.
Sorry, you asked. Receiving
good.
fellatio from Alexandra Breckenridge, and then they swapped out at the end of it Frances Conroy, and while Dennis O'Hare strangled me with a bag, and they bit off my
Now that is a memorable death scene.
Oh my God.
If I've ever heard one.
Oh my God, yes.
What was filming, minus the sexual part of it, what was that like being in that state of obviously mostly undressed and somebody sticking a bag over your head? Like,
it was intense.
Yeah, like that's gotta really screw with your head.
It was intense. I remember trying not to lose my voice because I had to scream so much. I remember talking to the director, and like with takes, I was like, if they're on my feet or on somebody else, like, let me know, and they'll tell me so, because I only had so many. My vocal technique wasn't. I mean, I had to lose my mind. I don't know how you scream like in a horror movie without losing your voice a little bit. I remember that being hard, and also when you're trying to stop someone, having to be careful not to move their wig.
Right.
So there were like technical aspects.
It's almost like a technical love scene. There's so many different things that are going on behind it.
And then they were really worried about me, and I really wanted to be in the bag and live in the moment, have them go, the bag, be like
going into your mouth,
And then after take, I would be lightheaded, and they were like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "No, let's do it." I would, I know you raise your hand if something but it was like more technical, and and then Jessica Lange walks in and says something when I'm Dennis O'Hare, Jessica Lange, Frances Conroy. I mean, this is a dream. These are my favorite actors.
You're getting suffocated with a bag and your jump bit off. You've arrived.
Unbelievable.
Well, I guess that kind of fulfills your horror part of the making it as an actor too, or did you do other horror films?
That is
horror-ish.
That's probably. I've done some sort of dark thriller stuff, but yeah.
Well, it's going to be hard to top that story, but I guess we should...
Horror, you should know, American Horror Story takes crazy long hours to shoot because horror requires a lot more camera angles.
Yeah.
Because for like imagine Psycho, where they're here, coming up this way, coming up there, taking 2 angles like this. So it's not just a master, a medium, and a close, and a wide shot. Right. There's 1,000 different angles that they need in order to cut and make it sort of suspenseful and so forth. So that's something I really learned. It takes a lot longer. If you're doing a horror movie or a horror TV show, you're in for longer days.